Have you ever looked at a company or even an entire industry and just wondered, how did things go so wrong? You look inside and everyone seems smart, responsible, they're all just doing their jobs, and yet the whole system just breaks. So what's going on? How is it possible for systems to fail when all the people inside them are trying to do the right thing? This quote from our source material really gets to the heart of it. When things go bad, our first instinct is to find the villain, right? The one person who was greedy or reckless, but the real story is usually way more complicated and, honestly, way more interesting. The problem often isn't a person, it's the system they're operating in. So yeah, this is the big question we're digging into. If there are no bad guys and everyone's intentions are good, what's this invisible force that pushes a perfectly stable system right to the edge of a cliff? Well, the answer, as we're about to find out, is usually hiding in plain sight. To solve this mystery, we have to learn to look past what people say they want to do, their intentions, and instead focus on what the system is actually paying them to do. We've got to unpack the real drivers of what people do day to day, their incentives. And this brings us to a really simple but incredibly powerful rule. You can almost think of it as a law of physics for organizations. What happens in the end, the outcome, isn't a result of good intentions, it's a direct result of the incentives. Good intentions are great, but they just don't stand a chance if the incentives are all pointing in the opposite direction. And here's where you can really see that conflict in action. It's this constant tug-of-war. On one side, you have these wonderful, responsible intentions. Be prudent, avoid harm, think long-term. But on the other side, you've got the hard, cold, real-world incentives. Meet this quarter's number. Beat your coworker's performance. Get that promotion. The system doesn't really know how to reward a vague goal like being prudent, but man, it knows exactly how to reward hitting a target. And here's the first subtle way the damage gets done. Before incentives even change our actions, they change what we pay attention to. It's like putting on a set of blinders. If your bonus is tied to short-term growth, you become laser-focused on every metric related to that growth. And those pesky long-term risks, well, they're not on the dashboard. They're not in your performance review. And so, quietly, without anyone meaning for it to happen, they just fade away. They become invisible. So let's talk about the first major force that bends these systems toward danger: time. Or to be more specific, the way our perception of time makes focusing on the immediate future feel like the smartest, safest, and most logical thing to do. So why is that pull towards the short term so powerful? It's not just about being impatient. Think about it. The distant future is, well, it's foggy, right? It's unpredictable. But the next quarter, the next 6 months, that feels clear. It's measurable. So focusing on the near term feels like a totally rational way to deal with uncertainty. You're sticking to what you can actually see and control. And this timeline shows exactly how this plays out in the real world. A manager makes a decision, it produces fantastic, visible results in the first year, and boom, they get a promotion. The strategy worked. So, of course, it gets repeated. By year 10, that original decision maker has moved on, maybe even to another company. But then, around year 15, the hidden costs, the risks that were ignored, they finally show up, long after the person responsible is gone. You see, the really crucial thing to understand here is that risk doesn't just show up one day with a big announcement. It's a quiet drift. It starts with one single, perfectly rational choice: to chase a short-term win. Some long-term cost gets kicked down the road. That choice gets rewarded, sending a clear message to everyone else: this is how you win here. And soon, that behavior is just how things are done. And just like that, the whole system is now way more fragile than it was before. That really nails it, doesn't it? The danger doesn't come from one big, crazy gamble. It's the slow, quiet accumulation of 1,000 tiny, reasonable choices, each one making perfect sense at the time. Okay, so we've talked about the trap of time. Now let's look at the second major force at play: distance. I mean, in any big organization, you have to delegate, right? You pass tasks down the chain of command. It's the only way to get things done. But this has a really powerful side effect. It thins out the feeling of responsibility. Here's the core idea, and it's brilliant. You know that game of telephone you played as a kid, where a message gets all garbled by the end? It's kind of like that, but for business. A simple, clear signal, like a sales target, can travel down a huge chain of command almost perfectly. But the complex stuff, the nuance, the important context behind that target, oh, that degrades with every single step. So imagine way up at the top, the board of directors comes up with this goal:
It's a great goal. It's thoughtful, it's nuanced, it's packed with important information about balancing risk and reward for the long haul.
Now, what happens when that goal gets passed down through 10 layers of VPs and managers and team leads? Well, the full sentence is too much. People start shortening it. They latch onto the keywords they think matter most. The crucial details, the nuance, it's already starting to disappear.
And by the time that message reaches the person on the front lines, the one who actually has to make a choice, what's left of that beautiful, complex goal? Just the simplest, clearest part that survived the journey. Just hit the number. All that vital context about risk and sustainability, it's gone. And the results of all this is a kind of structural amnesia. No single person feels like they truly own the final outcome. Everyone just did their little piece of the puzzle. The farther you are from the real-world consequences of your decision, the more abstract it all becomes, and the lighter that burden of responsibility feels. So, after exploring all these hidden forces, what's the big takeaway here? Well, it's really about shifting our entire perspective. It's about learning how to see the system itself. Instead of hunting for bad people, we need to start looking for bad structures and for incentives that are pointing in the wrong direction. This actually gives us a practical mental model we can use anywhere. The next time you see a bizarre or destructive outcome, don't just ask who's to blame. Instead, try asking these questions. What is actually being rewarded here? What future problems are being kicked down the road for a win today? And who is making big decisions without having to feel the consequences? When you start asking those questions, you start to see the invisible structures that are really running the show.
And at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. Failures, crises, they aren't just things to be cleaned up and moved on from. They are signals. They are the system speaking to us, telling us exactly where it's broken, showing us its hidden flaws. The real challenge isn't just trying to prevent the next bad outcome. It's developing the wisdom to actually listen to the last one and to truly understand the message it's trying to send.